Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Jacob Gibbs. And Mr. Jacob Gibbs, if you are, and plenty of people will be, drafting this weekend, what is your one piece of advice for drafters heading into this weekend?
Wasn't ready for this. I guess I'll triple down and say draft Bhayshul Tuten.
Draft Bhayshul Tuten. There you have it. And why is that?
Because he's awesome. He's so good. You watch the guy. He's so fast. Yeah, we'll get into that. We got a bunch of fun values to talk about today.
What round do you think our listeners should draft him just to be sure they get him?
Well, if they're on ESPN, they might be able to get him all the way in like round 16 or something. We did ADP recaps yesterday looking at all the major sites, and he was outside of the top 200. I'm taking him. I don't want to, maybe tip my hand if we have any FFT Open listeners here, but I'm probably taking him around like 12 or so is where I'm comfortable, and that is a reach. But I think he really is one of the best shots of hitting among the late round guys.
Well, there you have it. Jacob's one piece of advice for those of you drafting this weekend is to draft Jaguars running back Bhayshul Tuten. Rookie running back, ran a sub 4.4, was awesome on film at Virginia Tech. And that's Jaguars running back Bhayshul Tuten. Jacob says get him in round 12 if you want to make sure you get him. So make sure you do, because other people in your league might be listening to Beyond the Box Score these days. But today's show, as Jacob mentioned, is going to be a little bit like yesterday's, but a little bit different. Jacob and I are just going to be sitting here pinpointing our favorite values by ADP. Value hunting. That's the name of the game on this show. We're going to be looking for the best values for you for your drafts. And hopefully this will be a little bit of a cheat sheet for you if you're heading into draft weekend. So Jacob, on that front, where are we starting today?
Yeah, this is going to be a dope show. I made a tier maker last night. I'm going to share my screen here. And we will start at the top with Christian McCaffery. This is per Dan's request, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So we've got CMC not at 101. That's pretty unusual for people who've been playing fantasy for a while. If you're just now checking back in, you might be looking through the ADP and see Christian McCaffery at the back end of round one. And what the heck's going on here? This has been the guy, the stalwart at the very top. Not much has changed, really, as far as the formula for Christian McCaffery and how we can expect him to score points. It's just an injury concern, I think. But I'll leave it to Dan because he is higher than me. Dan, where do you expect to place him? You see what we're doing here in practice. We've got 30 or so players with a round value attached to each of them. And this is, of course, arbitrary, but just where we think they fit on our relative value scale. Where you at with CMC these days?
Okay, so I wasn't sure how we were going to do this show. I think I have a better idea now. We're taking these players, we're assigning the ADP value, and my goal here is so it's not necessarily this. If let's say I viewed Christian McCaffrey as a mid-tier value among the 30 players we have listed, I would put him in B. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I do that, a little bit of house cleaning for sure. Hit that like button right now, folks. I need your help. Jacob needs your help. Grow this show. There's only one way to do it. It's organically by hitting that like button. Hover your hand over the mouse. It's a quick click. Leave a comment too, both live. And if you're after the show, leave it then as well. Why is that? Because it still helps us grow. Please, this is number one right now. Got a new feed on iTunes and Spotify. Fantasy Football Today, Beyond the Box. Or look for that logo. Look for the green color. And please, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We need that. That's the key. I want people searching fantasy football this weekend before their drafts to find our show, moving up those podcast ranks. Now let's get to the show, Jacob. Always got to do a little plug God house cleaning. But with that said, I'm going to throw Christian McCaffrey in a tier B for me. And here's why. While I do love him this year, and I do have him as my RB2 overall, and I really want to put him RB1 overall, but I have him as my RB2 overall. And I just kind of click him a lot because, as you mentioned, he falls a lot in these snakes to spots I just don't really understand personally. I'm going to put him here because there's not that much to climb. Now, if Christian McCaffrey does put in one of his historic seasons like he has in 2023 or before that, then yes, he kind of can be a tier B, or I'm sorry, a tier A or a tier S value by because he's that far ahead. If we go back to like 2021, that 2021 fantasy draft, Jacob, Christian McCaffrey was going for in auctions like $12 to $13 more than the next player. And the reason being, the year before, he scored so many points that he was a cheat code every week for fantasy managers. It wasn't like he was the RB1 and there was another guy just behind him and they're kind of stacking. No, he had a massive jump. And that's kind of the idea behind drafting him now. And look, I understand he's injury prone, quote unquote. People assign that tag and that label differently than I do. But what I also understand, Jacob, is he's not injured right now. Several other top running backs are. He also has tons of injuries around him in the 49ers backfield. And I really do believe in the 49ers offense taking a massive jump this year due to health improvements and schedule being very easy. So McCaffrey for me is moving up and maybe ending this thing as my RB1, honestly, Jacob. It's going to be tough between him and I have very weird running back rankings at the top, Jacob. I don't know how yours shake out. I do know how yours shake out, but I know you'd find these weird. I have Barkley 1 and McCaffrey 2, and I'm standing by it. I think you're on mute.
Yes, sometimes I'm not ready at all because I'm working on backstage stuff. And time to talk.
You gotta give me like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I can filibuster. You know I can filibuster if we need.
So what I've got pulled up here is last year's PPR point per game leaders. Jamar Chase at 23.7, followed by Saquon Barkley at 22.2, Jahmyr Gibbs at 21.4, Bijan Robinson at 20.1.
Got it.
Thank you. Those are the only 4 above 20. Christian McCaffrey in games where he's played at least 2/3 of the snaps for the 49ers has averaged 25 PPR points. I think it's possible we'll see his role even expanded in a more valuable way. I think it's relevant to bring up that with the 49ers, he's averaged 5.8 targets per game. With the Panthers, he averaged 8 targets per game. So that number has come way down, but he still averaged more PPR points, 25 compared to 24, with the 49ers than he did with the Panthers. And now we have no Deebo Samuel. And we've seen decent sample size splits without Deebo on the field that Christian McCaffrey has been even more involved in the passing game. 21% target per route run rate with Deebo off the field rises to 25% with Deebo off of the field. So could his role even expand more? Could he get to that 25 plus point per game range again? I think really the only obstacle is health. We really love the Niners schedule. I think the offense could put a bunch of points on the board. I'm putting him in A. I think so I'm going to make the case for somebody like Nico Collins or Brock Bowers being an A value. And it's a little bit more complicated of a case than McCaffrey, where it's simply he needs to be healthy. I think if you're comfortable betting on him over some of the other guys at the back end of round 1, if you can get him in that range, it's a really unique bet to get somebody that has such a simple equation for scoring a true like game-changing, league-winning type of point total, not in the top 5.
That's a good point. There really is nothing to the, like all these other guys have factors and parts of the equation. Like, can he do this? Will this happen? Will you get this volume? No, it's simple for McCaffrey. It's just stay on the field and you'll be scoring an insane amount of points. So I'm fine with that. The reason I didn't put him in A, and this will be a fun exercise, Jay, because I think there's a lot of conjecture involved in it and I have fun with that type of stuff. But I feel like we're going to get to some of these like insane glaring values down the board. And I'm going to be like, well, I can't really put a McCaffrey type at A, because there's still not that much room to gain as there's for some of these guys where I feel like we could be looking at 2, 3, 4 rounds of value to gain, but we'll see as it goes how this thing plays out.
Yeah, he's not stuck in A. We'll move it all around as we go.
I like that.
Nico Collins next up. We've got Nico Collins, 1-2 turn Nico Collins. What type of value is that? I'm putting him basically on par with CMC in the same way that CMC has just been remarkably productive when healthy. We've seen the same from Nico Collins, wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per route run over the past 2 years. You have Nico at wide receiver 6. Is that what I heard?
I have Nico, and I just did a re-rank today. So let's check out where I went today on that.
I've got on the screen here.
No, I have Nico as wide receiver 3 overall, not 6.
Okay, 6th overall player.
6th overall player, yes.
Nice. I've got on the screen here reception perception results for Nico last year. He just keeps getting better. He's been getting better every year, which is insane because he averaged over 3 yards per out run in 2023, and then he was even better last year. 96th percentile all time among Matt's charting results versus press coverage. 93rd percentile versus man coverage. His zone rate is going up as well. You look at his chart here, you love to see all the green, especially on the horizontally breaking routes, which I do think we're going to see a lot more of in this new offense with Nick Caley. He had a very
Yes.
low horizontally breaking route rate last year. And that's part of the reason I'm so impressed he's been able to get the targets that he has, is because he's doing so much vertically oriented stuff. So it's possible we haven't even seen the full version of what this could be for Nico yet.
Sure. And it's an aggressive rank for me. I guess I would also have to have him in A tier just because of how high I have him ranked. I have him over Justin Jefferson, and that's not something you see often in this. Just A, like his environment a lot better, like his quarterback situation a lot better. B, I also just feel like he's at that level of player. Like Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in football. Nico Collins makes a case when he's on the field as being one of the better receivers in football for all the things you just broke down. We've talked a lot about him on this show. Kevin, this is an interesting point I just want to bring up real quick. Jacob, start to work in more comments from the fans and good, interesting analysis and discussion I think it could lead to. Kevin Inami says, later rounds of value are worth less than higher end draft capital. I thought Dan would understand this based on auction economy analysis. I get the point, Kevin. I do understand what you're referring to. And in generally speaking, it's like the NFL draft, right? The first round picks are worth. Have you seen like the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart in the real NFL draft? The first round picks are worth so much more, the second and the third. So I definitely agree with that for sure. But I do, again, think we're going to find some just glaring values, not as far, like not necessarily down the board, but in that middle range of the board. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to kind of check out. All right, Jacob, sorry about that. I wanted to talk a little on that.
One last thing on Nico Collins here. I've got a thread pulled up that you guys might find interesting. If you're looking on YouTube, you can find it. I compared the primes of some of the best receivers we've had in league history. And I think it's especially relevant because as we look at who we've got in the league right now, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, and Amon-Ra St. Brown have just entered their primes recently. And so this is based off Ryan's research historically. Primes are a little bit different for each player, but generally speaking, it's age 25 to 29 years old. A lot of these guys, Nico only 12 games in his prime. Amon-Ra St. Brown only 11 games in his prime. Ja'Marr Chase just turned 25. We're about to see him have his first game as a 25-year-old. Puka Nacua, same thing. Nico Collins, if you look at like top 5 in yards per out run within their primes, you've got Julio Jones is the only player above Nico Collins, closely followed by Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Antonio Brown. So really a phenomenally efficient player. I really do think he belongs in this range, and it's just a treat to get him at 1-2 turn. I think that's way too cheap. Chase Brown, speaking of players who I just think are simply too cheap, I think the way that we've drafted running backs in the past, this type of profile goes in round 1 most years or early round 2. But Chase Brown this year is basically a 2-3 turn guy. I put him in round 2. I think he falls just a hair below these guys because I don't know if we can say that the talent is on par with them. Just these guys are transcendent talents, I think. Chase Brown, though, the role, the offense, everything is there that we like to see. I think he just to get him at the end of round 2 is just like way, way too cheap for a guy with this type of role. And the same goes for Bucky Irving. At the beginning of drafts, this, way back, we're doing drafts with Jamie Eisenberg back in January and stuff. And I'm taking Bucky Irving at the end of round 1, basically just kind of mostly just for vibes, for the brand, for beyond the box score, just kind of riding the wave of how fun 2024 Bucky season was. But seriously, like I know there's like some concerns with Liam Cohen leaving and the health of Tristan Wirfs and everything, but I think Dwayne McFarland's done a really good job of highlighting like what a special player he is. I've tried to do that as well. In some of our earliest podcasts, we talked about that and compared him to like Alvin Kamara and how he could maybe have that kind of a career arc. Not necessarily a one-for-one stylistic comparison, but the way they score points without having to have like a 70% snap roll. And I think his snap rate could only increase this year. So what do you think on these two? Are they B tier, C tiers, or anything that, like just straight up? Are you choosing one over the other?
I choose Chase Brown over Bucky almost every time, but that's more a preference thing. And I think they're both equal values in tier B. So the case for like, it's a different type of fantasy asset and profile for me, Jacob. On Bucky's front, it's efficiency, it's explosiveness, it's me believing in the talent and the player, in addition to him having a situation that propels him up into this range where I think he's a good value. Great offensive line. Tristan Wirfs will be back at some point. Great offensive environment, good talent around the quarterback, and the quarterback has taken a step forward. I'm a little worried, to be honest, about losing Liam Cohen. Not that worried, though, because he's that good of a player. For Brown, it's like, I don't trust their run game at all. I think it's insanely inefficient. I think their blocking is terrible up front in the run game, and I think their blocking scheme is bad. But the role is just insane. Like, the role is fantasy gold for Chase Brown. It's not necessarily the case for Bucky. It's insane amount of target. And I also think, like, just generally speaking, in that offense, Joe Burrow, the way he runs it, he's running it out of the gun, right? Most of the time. He's spreading everything out most of the time, Jacob. And those outlets to Chase Brown are solutions for him to come back through as he works through his progression. For Mayfield, the progression is very different. They're under center more often. It's play action shots. So I just think he'll get more targets than a player like Bucky, and likely more touchdowns than a player like Bucky. But Bucky's going to do a lot more with the touches. So I'm fine with both. I just take Chase over Bucky.
I think their touchdown projection is pretty much identical. I do have Bucky ranked ahead of him. I think they're dead even in full PPR because of what you alluded to. If it were just me making this list, I would put him in A, but I think I'm totally fine with him being in the same tier here.
Sure.
Next up, Brock Bowers, who you can get at the round 2-3 turn, which I really think is insane. I have him ranked 15th for half PPR, 13th for full PPR. I am taking him ahead of Malik Neighbors, which I think will surprise people.
Wow.
He's what differentiates Neighbors, who scares me with the injuries. And also, like, I feel like it's totally reasonable to expect that the Raiders offense could be better than the Giants offense. I have much more confidence in Geno Smith. And I think they're similar as players. They're like as good as it gets as players. So
Sure.
I think to get him at this value, whereas Neighbors is around one pick in most formats, to be able to get Bowers this late is truly stealing. I think people are just a bit spooked by Kyle Pitts and some of the recent tight end failures, maybe Laporta last year, I guess. I just listened to Ben Gretsch on School of Scott. That's Scott Barrett's podcast. Couple great guys and friends of the podcast there. I really liked to hear what he had to say about Bowers, and it basically echoes my sentiment, kind of emboldened me to say it with my chest here. Like, I do think he's one of the best values on the board, and I think we're going to look back at this and be kind of shocked that people were not more excited to take him. And I think what he said basically was like this research that Ryan and people like, he didn't name Ryan, and I don't want to say specifically that it was like Ryan's research is wrong, but he's like applying like the aggregate to the outlier here with Bowers, and that like there are players like this who just kind of break these rules. And so when we're applying like what has happened over the past 8-10 years of tight end data, there's no one like him really. Like Kelce, it's like, unless he's Kelce, well, it's like, well, yeah, that might be totally valid that he is. They're very special players, and now we've got a situation where he's teamed up with another special player, Ashton Jeanty, 6th overall pick, and that really changes things. And Geno Smith is the quarterback to unlock it. I think they could have a ton of shootouts. There's a lot of paths to more upside from him than we got last year. He only had 7 touchdowns last year. I think that number could spike easily. So yeah, to me, I think he really does belong here with Nico and CMC, where it's like some of the absolute best talents in the NFL in a good situation, and he doesn't have the injury problem that those guys do, and he's cheaper. I think he's just a phenomenal value.
I'm going to need to follow up with you on Bowers. It's a big inflection point in the draft. I have a few questions I want to rattle your way and then give some of my takes on this idea. But before we do that, we're going to have to take a quick break, and we'll hear a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back on.
Critics are buzzing about the new season of Yellow Jackets.
This is not healthy.
Yellow Jackets' new season, now streaming on the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.
All right, Jacob, before we get into my thoughts, I want to ask you this. You made the case for Bowers. Is that the same case for Trey McBride, or is it a different case for you? And like, where do you view McBride? Because I don't see him on our list for sure. And because I think all draft season, they've been drafted pretty close together.
Yeah, I don't think that they should be. I think that their data last year was similar, and Bowers did it at a much younger age. Bowers also was a much better collegiate prospect. McBride had one phenomenal season in college. It was his final season at Colorado State. Bowers was spectacular from his freshman year at Georgia. I think he like clearly outweighs any tight end prospect we've had. And then he came in and had a year last year that was like right on par with McBride's breakout season in year 2 as a rookie. And on top of that, the circumstances have changed in a significant way for Bowers, where they haven't for McBride. He's basically just like, we think he can replicate what he did last year, maybe expand on it if we get touchdown regression, if he progresses as a player. Either one of those could happen. So maybe McBride is good value, But to me, if there's one that's likely to be a true like league winner, like the most important player in fantasy is how Gretsch described Bowers as like his hot take as he left Scott's show. I think it's got to be him. There's a number of things that could get us to that point, in addition to him just being such a overwhelming talent.
So I have a few thoughts on it, but before I do that, I want to ask you one more thing. Is the big dilemma, I think, for fantasy listeners as they try to build out their teams in their mind for their drafts this weekend, whether it be snake and you're taking Bowers at the top of round 2 or the middle of round 2, or auction and you're really changing your entire budget strategy around spending on tight end versus not spending on tight end. Does the opportunity cost of it at all kill you? Like, not, you're losing out, in my mind at least, on a really good chance, one of your only few chances you have at a breakout running back or wide receiver, by spending that asset on Bowers. And does that impact you at all, knowing that we really have pinpointed, Jacob, you and I, a lot of late round tight ends that we are perfectly fine with getting, but not only perfectly fine with getting, we see major upside with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's players like that at the running back and receiver position too. I do get what you're saying. We've covered this in detail on a number of our podcasts, but to answer your question, the players that I have above him are the ones that I do have that opportunity cost concern on, like
Okay.
Brian Thomas Jr., where I feel like there's a very good chance that he's that league winner, relatively speaking. The players that I have below him, I feel like they fit the archetype, but I don't necessarily feel like they are just some slam dunk. Like,
Okay.
basically like these two guys here, Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, where it's like, there's a few things that worry me a little bit. There's literally nothing about Bowers' profile that has me worried in any way. Like, everything looks good, unless you think that he's not going to be on the field all the time because of this preseason game or whatever. Like, I truly can't think of any other conceivable reason why we'd be like worried about Brock Bowers. He's a stud who's like succeeded at every point we've ever seen him, all 3 years of college and then as a pro. So like with the good environment here, I think it's just an easy pick in this range.
So are you taking Brock Bowers over Bucky Irving?
Yes, easily.
You taking him over Chase Brown?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll move on past Bowers. We spend a lot of time on him, but it is, to me, one of the most interesting debate points for fantasy drafts. As I mentioned earlier, it's an inflection point. You're either spending big on tight end or not. My concerns, I don't want to call them one concerns, and they may be overblown. I like the idea of everything you said. I think Gino's a major upgrade for him. I think the touchdowns could come up because of it. I actually don't worry about the preseason stuff with him not getting on the field for a lot of snaps. And I think Chip Kelly's, generally speaking, good for his fantasy value as a coordinator. My concerns are, looking at that offense last year, Jacob, the way it ran, they just funneled everything through Brock Bowers. And to me, a lot of that is because their quarterback situation sucked. And while it's a good thing to get Gino from an efficiency standpoint, Gino's a much better processor, man. Like, he is going to work through the progression, and he may not just lean on Bowers at all times and just, which is essentially what the offense
Who is he
was.
going to throw it to? They're talking about starting Trey Tucker and
right.
Those are like the definition of sacrificial X. Like Dante Thornton, Trey Tucker do not get targets.
Gino will hit the X, though, on a one-on-one. Like, if Gino sees a one-on-one with a safety rotating down, I don't care who's playing there, Thornton, Tucker, whatever it may be, he's going to try to hit that. That's like who Gino is, right?
Which is great. That opens up the offense, but like, they're not taking targets from Bowers. It's good to have that deep threat, but like, those guys are going to, I would bet so much money that neither one of them will have a target share above like 12%.
You're probably right for the X, but I just think that it's not just the X. It's not just seeing those one-on-ones on the boundary. I just think there's going to be a progression-based style to the way Gino plays the quarterback position that simply wasn't there for Vegas last year. It was simply just read one, Brock Bowers, I'm going to it, I don't care.
That's great. I think that Bowers, the role that he played last year, was limiting. That's why we led off the very first episode that we did on Beyond the Box Score with the stat that he only avoided 4 tackles last year. The only tight ends that have had fewer than 5 avoided tackles with 80 or more receptions are him, old man Travis Kelce, old man Hurts. That makes no sense. He needs to be more than that,
because there was no space, like you say.
And we know that he can be. He can be the guy winning the intermediate deep area of the field as well. I think the reason he benefited and got all these targets last year from the quarterbacks is because, like, what the hell else are we gonna do with this offense? Whereas now there's a lot of ways to attack with this offense, and I think that it makes the most sense by far to like focus that on Bowers and Genty. And I think the dual threat is going to just cause problems for defenses. And giving him that type of leverage as a already like phenomenal winner that we saw put up the season he did last year, like I think he could just easily outscore these receivers. Like that, if that happens, then he just breaks fantasy. He's like been like the most important player in fantasy.
Yeah, if he becomes a Kelce-esque in Kelce's prime type performer in fantasy, that's worth the 6th or 7th overall pick, let alone where you might be getting him. And that's it. That's why Jacob has him up there. I'd put him a little lower. I just have my concerns about what I discussed, plus also adding in there. Vegas is a really low projected point total for the Raiders. Yes, it's fun for us to say you're wrong, Vegas. Like, we see Geno on tape. We love Geno on tape. We like this Chip Kelly offense. We like the talent. It's fun to say all those things, but oftentimes Vegas tends to be right. And I could totally see anytime Pete Carroll runs a team, that team being in a lot of 17-14 games, 20-17 type games. So we'll see what happens on that front. But I'm with it. I get it. I bought him in an auction, so I'm not out on it. I just really like the value of late round tight ends. It's so hard for me to spend early on Bowers and McBride. Let's move forward, though. We spent a lot of time on the top 2 tight ends.
RJ Harvey is next, our boy. We can get RJ Harvey in round 5, maybe round 4 or 5 turn. Where do you think RJ Harvey belongs in this range?
RJ Harvey's been our boy since the start of the show, maybe our favorite sleeper. That's no longer a sleeper because he was only a sleeper basically the day he was drafted, or before he was drafted, I should say, when we thought he'd be a 4th round pick. RJ Harvey's value at this point, Jacob, it's hard to say if it's dissipated because his ADP has skyrocketed, right? Like, you can see where his ADP is at now, and I guarantee you, Jacob, he'll go 5 to 6 to 7 draft slots higher than his ADP in any draft you do this weekend. If any of your league mates are interested in fantasy football and they're consuming any kind of fantasy football content, if they're not and they're just going by ADP and they're casual players, maybe you can still get him in a range where I love his value. But because of that, I feel like I don't want to say he's obviously not priced, Jacob, at his ceiling. We know that, but he's certainly getting priced closer to his midpoint, I would say. So if at this stage of the game, I'm willing to lower the value I see in drafting him into a C.
Yeah, I think C is where he belongs. I think these two are better values because we have a very good idea of what the role probably is going to be. With Harvey, there's upside for him to have been one of the best values on the board. I really do believe that. That's why we've talked about him so much this offseason. But like you said, he's pushed up the board. I still do think he's one of the best values in fantasy, which is why he's in this discussion that we're having today. Trevion Henderson has pushed ahead of him. There are a number of guys who sometimes go ahead of him that I just do not understand at all. I think there's huge upside with Harvey. With a number of these guys, because we have so many players today, if we've talked about them a ton on Beyond the Box Score, I'm just going to give you a timestamp that you can go look at. And I think this would be great for you all to go dig into some of the content we made this summer, because there's a lot of really good stuff. So for Harvey, it's at 58:10, the 58-minute and 10-second mark of the fantasy football cheat codes video, fantasy football cheat codes, route concepts, pre-snap motion. We talk about all that goes into Sean Payton's offense and why we're so excited for Harvey. Tony Pollard generally is going to go a little bit later than Harvey. We got him at the round 5-6 is our evaluation for Pollard here. I know he's one of your favorites, so I'll let you talk about Pollard for a while. Where do you think he belongs?
Yeah, Pollard, I'm okay just putting right alongside Harvey. I could make the case to put him in B because you can get him cheaper than Harvey, but I don't see the same level upside with Pollard as I do Harvey, despite the fact that Pollard might open the season with a really awesome role in that offense if Spears can't make it back for the regular season start. We don't know what's going on that front. What I do know is I believe in the direction of the Titans' offensive line, and I believe in the direction of their offensive front for a multitude of reasons. One, they've made major investments on the offensive line, including one who's simply brought in to be one of the best run blockers in the NFL, in J.C. Latham, and we'll see if that happens this year. He made major strides last year, had some really good moments and flashes on tape. In addition to picks that they've made before, that's Skoronski as a first-round pick the year before, who settled in nicely at guard. And then the key factor there, they have Callahan. They have one of the all-time best offensive line coaches and one of the 4 or 5 elite offensive difference-making offensive line coaches of the NFL right now. There aren't many that have, Dante Scarnecchia retired. You still have him. You still have Stoutland with the Eagles and a few others. And he's one of the guys that really stands out to me. So I believe that running game can get really healthy this year. I believe the offense can be a lot healthier with Cam Ward versus Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. And so all those factors added into the fact that Pollard was pretty explosive and pretty efficient as a runner last year, I could see an uptick in his scoring. And he just seems like he's getting priced similarly, Jacob, to last draft season, despite improvement around him.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how good he played last year. We were excited for Tyjae Spears. We loved the film on him, but Pollard just played outright better and was basically relegating Spears to like just their down work. And then when Spears missed time, they gave all the snaps to Pollard. 89%,
Right.
82%, 86%, 94% snap rates for him in those games. They did bring in a rookie, Khalil Mullings, who has ran hard this preseason. He's a big physical guy. So I think he would complement Pollard a little bit in that scenario. But the fact that we could see him play basically a bell cow role, that's really unusual to get a player in this range. And I also was really encouraged by what we saw from the offensive play designing last year. I think it could be a sneaky big year for Pollard and for Calvin Ridley. We did settle on Pollard as our favorite value of the two Titans. So
Yeah.
I think, did you say C, D? Do you think he's below Harvey?
No. He's got to be at least a C for me. I would juggle B, C. Again, value for me, you're getting him so much later than Harvey that I feel like that adds to the value of him, though. Good point made earlier about decreasing value, but I just love the case that you made and my feel for this player overall, so I'm willing to put him in C.
Okay, we're going to go a little quick through our Chiefs players here.
Before we get to the Chiefs, though, we actually need to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors, Jacob. And before we take that break, I want you to hit that like button right now if you're listening. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit us up on iTunes and Spotify as well. But now we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me. You're just like your old man.
I am not like you at all.
Unreal. We're back on Happy Face Killer ads. I can't believe it. I thought I'd see a day where we never would see it again. But Jacob, we need to get back into these ADP value tiers. Let's talk Chiefs.
Yeah, so we already had a big back and forth about Xavier Worthy and Rashid Rice. I thought that was a really good discussion. You can find that at the 23:35 mark of
Nice.
how to draft league-winning fantasy football teams from any pick in the draft. Kelce is who I want to talk about today because I'll be honest, Dan, I think
I'm surprised
Kelce,
he made this list. He's not a value for you.
You asked for him to be on the list.
I did.
I think Kelce is.
I thought you would veto me.
I'm not going to veto you, bro. This is your podcast as much as mine. Kelce, I think, is one of the worst picks you can make in fantasy, flat out. So please sell me on how he could be anything other than
one of the worst picks you can make in fantasy. I don't understand how that could be the case when he's like being drafted alongside TJ Hawkinson, maybe even actually after Hawkinson. I think
both terrible picks. I looked at multiple ADP sources because I could not believe it. Rounds 5, 6 is where he goes. Same round as the guys we're talking about here, and some of these receivers are so excited for.
But he doesn't actually. That's if he's going round 5, round 6, I'm not going to put him as a value.
That's his ADP. That's where he just went in the FFT Open draft.
I feel like he falls to the round 7, 8 range. But you know what? I'm still willing to make a case round 5, 6 ADP. And the case is simply, we don't have to spend too much time on this. The case is simply feels. The feels is Travis Kelce looks healthier and looks in much better shape than he was last year moving around from what I've seen in camp. Secondly, he's going to score touchdowns in offense. He always has, with the exception of last season. So we're looking at 8 to 10 touchdowns at a tight end position where all you really have to do is score 8 to 10 touchdowns to be one of the best players at your position. And that's all just feels like very floory to me. Like, what if this Chiefs offense takes the step we expected last year, this year, with better health at wide receiver and an actual solution at left tackle? Then is Kelce getting into the 10 to 12 touchdown range like he used to be? So look, I still believe in the Chiefs offense and it's propelling my belief in Travis Kelce. I understand everyone's done with Kelce. And I'll be quite frank with you, Jacob. I don't draft a lot of Kelce because I wait at tight end. But with that said, if the value is like in an auction league, if he's just not, people haven't been bidding on him in a lot of these auction leagues I've been in. People are just done with him, like fully done. It's like Cooper Kupp. His name comes up in an auction and you see like $2-3 being thrown on a formerly elite player. I just feel like there's still some value there because I believe in the offense.
All right. I mean, you could be right. I just can't. It can't be me. You talk
Kelce
about
will be a fun one for us to look back on at the end of the year. Like when if he falls into his 8 to 10 touchdowns, I feel like we'll look back, Jacob, and I'll be like, see, I'm technically right. He finished as tight end 6.
More than anything, it's opportunity cost. Like I don't want the profile, but it's like the exact case you made for Bowers and not that much less cost, and it just seems crazy to me. Yeah. Okay, where do you think Worthy belongs?
So, I prefer Worthy over Rice. And I think that's probably a little more common now with the weird Rice stuff going on with suspension. I've seen that in drafts, but I would put Worthy more in a C tier as far as value goes. I like him at cost, Jacob. And he's a fine value for me, but I don't think I would put him in my A tier or my S tier because there still does appear to be a cap ceiling to his potential based on some of the things you went over in your argument, right? Hasn't been a fully efficient player, probably not going to play that power slot role or any part of the slot role that really generates the targets. You're going to be hoping with Worthy for more explosive plays and more touchdowns, which I believe he will score, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty in that type of profile that I don't want to put him past C.
It will, I think, make you happy to hear that Ben Gretsch made the pro case for Worthy on School of Scott, that podcast I just listened to.
Anytime I'm aligned with Ben Gretsch, I am happy to hear that.
Yeah, he thinks, basically to your point, that he could get more touchdowns this year, could be a lot more effective in connecting on those deep balls, and he thinks he'll keep some of the designed work that they got him last year. I'm more of the belief that that was something they felt forced to do because of Rice's absence, and this year they'll have more options, even on the games that Rice is suspended for. Jalen Royals and maybe even Marquise Brown. I would expect it to be Worthy before Brown, but I think this year they'll mainly focus on Worthy being somebody who opens things up for them down the field, and I don't think that's going to be enough targets to trust them. Okay, let's move on to one of our absolute favorites here. I think our first prime candidate for S tier, especially if we're talking about a round 6 valuation, which is what I'm seeing with ADP, but a lot of these are pushing up the board quickly. I think these days, Tet McMillian is more around 4 or 5 pick.
Yeah, man, he's just going so high now. Like the ADP has caught the drafters have caught up to him.
Yeah. So we're very high on T-Mac. You'll hear us talk about him quite a bit throughout all the Beyond the Box Score episodes. I'll give you a timestamp of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 15 seconds on fantasy football cheat codes. I think that is a really interesting episode that is maybe a little bit buried because it's a little bit older now, but it's evergreen. There's lots of good stuff in that. So it's route concepts and pre-snap motion, and some good notes on horizontally breaking routes relating to T-Mac, Travis Hunter, Matthew Golden, some of the players we're going to rank today, some of the players we think are the best values on the board and now are going to be in offenses with creative play designers who I think are going to really accentuate their skill sets and put them in positions to put up big fantasy points. I'm totally content with T-Mac as an S tier value, even if he's in round 5. If he gets in around 4, he's probably more of like a B tier range for me, I think, if you're reaching for him at that point. And that is where I have him ranked. I have him ranked inside of my top 40. So like I said, I'm still content with taking him there. But if you can get him cheaper, which you can in a lot of these casual drafts, I think he's one of the best values of the board at any position.
Home league draft, I'm good with putting him in that S tier. I do know that for a lot of people listening to this podcast, they're in a lot of competitive leagues like the ones that I'm in, and you'll never get him at that range. So in that range, we're seeing him push up to Jacob. And by the way, it was so fun to get him so late at the beginning of draft season. I almost wanted to hide it at the beginning because I was just so surprised at it. But at the position he's currently being drafted in, I put him more as an A tier. Borderline AB for me. I do see the case you make for him, and I love what you've brought up, especially specifically, what did Bryce Young improve, Jacob, last year when he had his mini breakout in the second half? It was purely his improvement was purely his anticipatory throwing. He got the ball out fast. He got it before the receiver came out of the break, and we saw already glimpses of that with him and T-Mac in the preseason. Ultimately, though, if I push him all the way up to the A tier or the S tier, Jacob, I'm assuming that his breakout could look like Neighbors' was last year, right? Like, because that's where he's coming to. He's being drafted now at the point where Neighbors was pushed up to at the end of draft season last year. And I just felt like Neighbors had a much better situation, didn't have as much target competition around him. I know you're probably not a believer in some of those players in Carolina, but I think they can still create, get targets. And also, in addition to that, I just felt like Dable designed the entire offense around getting Neighbors the football because Daniel Jones was his quarterback and Jones is a one-read quarterback. Bryce Young, to me, is more of a processing quarterback. So I'm not as certain we're going to see a massive, it's kind of like the same case with Geno for me. I'm not as certain we're going to see the funnel that we need. So for him to be S tier for me, I need a funnel of targets, not just the efficient, great rapport and connection that I do believe they'll have together.
I do. I think it's totally realistic that he could see the funnel. That's what we saw with Deontay Johnson last year. I think it's going to be a very similar role. And that's what we saw from T-Mac over his final 2 seasons in college. I hope that I'm not understanding or reading into subtext here. Did you presume to say that I don't believe in Jalen Coker? That's not what you're alluding to there, Dan, right?
No, that is not what I'm referring to.
You're not going to pit me against the cokehead, right?
No, I'm not putting you against. Well, I'm definitely not going to use that term for these fans of Jalen Coker either. But I will say this, Jacob, it's not just Coker for me. I still feel like Thielen gets open. I watched some of Thielen's tape from last year. I'm like, dude, Thielen wins routes. He still freaking wins routes. Nobody cares about Thielen. Nobody talks about Thielen. He's just out there winning his routes. And I even somehow still have a little bit of belief in Xavier Leggett. And honestly, Jatavian Sanders has been having a nice camp. He doesn't mean anything for fantasy, but if he gets open in that offense, he's just another option for Bryce. It really depends on Bryce for me, Jacob. If I see, and I understand what you're saying, like last year, Deontay was getting funnel targets. It was also the beginning of that system with Bryce, and his interpretation of that system was probably less so, I would say, nuanced and advanced than it is right now. And he may be seeing the field a lot better and just delivering and distributing to open space, which is not always going to be T-Mac in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to get the Malik Neighbors targets like you talked about, because that's something that's historically unprecedented. We've never really seen anything like it for a player so young.
Right.
But I absolutely think he will see well above the target numbers that are necessary to be a value at this range.
Okay.
And then if the offense is
this
better,
range for sure, yeah.
if the offense is better than we expect, then suddenly he's somebody who could have a lot of yards and touchdowns too, because I think he's going to be seeing a lot of these targets in the intermediate area where you can catch and run, and those are like kind of how you unlock the fantasy upside for a receiver. I think a good corollary here, maybe this will help settle something that's going on in the chat here with Squibbles. I think an interesting corollary would be, I'm going to compare Tet McMillian to Trey McBride. I'm going to compare George Pickens to Brock Bowers.
Okay.
So I made a point earlier that, McBride only had one huge collegiate season, and that Bowers was incredible in every season, every opportunity, every step along the way that we've seen Brock Bowers. He's looked like the best tight end of all time. That has been taken as some sort of disparaging remark towards Trey McBride, who is one of my favorite players, has been for some time. He's awesome. That is not in any way the way that was intended to be taken. That's just to say that it's really hard to be really good as an 18-year-old in a new system. But Brock Bowers did that at Georgia, and that's really impressive. Same thing for our guy here, George Pickens, at Georgia. Incredibly productive, efficient, just impossible to stop. Going up against older players at a high level of competition in press coverage situations and winning repetitively. That's the type of talent that we have here.
Sure.
T-Mac's first year wasn't something spectacular. He was getting on the field, which is impressive in itself at that age. But the offense was funneled through Jacob Cowing, who is, an NFL talent, and they ran a lot of short targets to him. T-Mac was the field spacer. It took some time before he really stepped up and became a huge stud. I think T-Mac is, awesome talent. Of course, he went in the top 10. But this is truly if there's no other concerns with Pickens, if we're just looking at talent, he's one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. He really is. And so we've talked about him at length, why we're so excited for him. Where are you at? Are you picking him straight up over T-Mac?
So just for those listening, new to the show, we did a great Pickens discussion, I believe 2 episodes ago. That was on the how to draft from every position in the draft. So we have a little bit of the analysis side on there. I don't want to go over too many of the same things twice. As far as the question you asked me, though, am I taking Pickens over T-Mac? I have him ranked 1 spot ahead of T-Mac in my rankings. And when it comes to Pickens, I understand people are going to be skeptical about having somebody like this ranked so high because CeeDee Lamb is in this offense. But ultimately, we look at T. Higgins and we're not afraid to draft him in spite of his injury history. Why are we not doing the same for Pickens? Pickens is just as talented as Higgins. I would argue Pickens may have better tape than Higgins, Jacob. He's a more complete receiver in my mind. He's better on the in breakers, the quick in breakers, and he's better as a vertical receiver in my mind than Higgins. They're both very good as vertical receivers because they can stack and they get up top and make catches away from their frame. But in addition to all that, you mentioned it. At Georgia, when he was 17 years old, he had 9 touchdowns. He hasn't had more than 5 in the NFL because he's stuck on the Steelers, a team that doesn't throw touchdown passes historically, at least over the last few years since Ben Roethlisberger retired. It's similar to a Giants situation. Now he's on a team that throws a lot of touchdowns. Dak Prescott throws a lot of passing touchdowns, and a good piece of that tree is going to go, Lamb's going to be awesome, but Pickens is going to be awesome too. He is, to me, the best value in fantasy by far at any position, the most mispriced guy. He's now starting to move up, creep up boards. I think, it is what it is in fantasy season. The values dissipate as time goes on. That's why I like drafting early personally. I don't care about the injuries, but man, there's just nobody who's going to top him for me.
Let's go. Best value on the board, S tier. I moved him ahead of T-Mac.
Put him ahead of T-Mac.
I think that is a rightful ranking for him. Okay, so yeah, I'll point you to the fantasy breakouts. We did 10 fantasy football breakouts, 17-minute, 47 mark. We talk about George Pickens and all the things we like. Same thing for Jaylen Waddle, 36 minutes, 23 seconds. We talk about him. You're taking him basically in the same range, though. So to me, he's like bottom of the players that we have here, but you did put him on your list. Is there anything you want to add, or do you just want to point people to that breakouts and move on?
Point people to our breakouts episodes where we go over the value in Jaylen Waddle.
All right, Travis Hunter, available often in round 6, pushing up the board as well, but I do think generally is going behind T-Mac. Where do you have him in regards to T-Mac? We haven't talked a lot about Travis Hunter. I have him ranked behind both T-Mac and Pickens. For me, he would be like a B or A tier. What do you think?
He'd be definitely B for me. Generally speaking, this show, Beyond the Box Score, we love rookies. And I think it's part of our, if I don't want to get into too much of this right now. I know we got to keep it moving, but if we have one blind spot in our analysis, our number one blind spot, we probably have plenty, Jacob. I think we may overvalue rookies, to be quite frank. We watch a lot of their tape. We are very excited about what they'll be in the NFL, but it's not always applicable for redraft. So I think Hunter for me might be a player that takes a little bit longer to be that massive fantasy value. So I'll throw him in B.
Good stuff. All right, Jalen Warren. I think Jalen Warren probably belongs in D or maybe C. I know that you're not quite as into him as I am. I've made the case for him a number of times. We talked about him on the FFT show today. Honestly, so if you want to hear the case for Warren, it's 41-28, 41 minutes 28 seconds of the breakouts video that we just mentioned with Pickens and Waddle. The Kenneth Gainwell and Arthur Smith aspect of it has me spooked. It really does. Like if he loses some passing downs and Caleb Johnson takes over the early down reps by the end of the season, I don't know what he is. He might not be useful for fantasy at all. The hope is he gets that early season starting job and plays so well that they don't have really any choice to take him off the field because he's like their best offensive player. I think that could be the case where he's kind of like the engine for them. And if you want to hear that case, it's 41-28 of that video, but I don't think I'm going to put him any higher than this Waddle Kelce range. Emeka Egbuka.
I would say, just looking at it, let's put Waddle into C. Waddle's a better value than those two, Kelce and Warren.
I think he's a significantly worse value than Rashid Rice, who we have in the same range, as well as Harvey and Pollard.
Okay,
so it would be D.
Throw him back down.
Emeka
Put him at the
Egbuka,
top at least, though. At least put his face at the top. There we go.
round 7. I think we've got to go with like A or B tier. We've talked about him. He was brought up on every single sleeper show.
It's another
such a clear runway for him just right out the gate in a good offense to be putting up production. And if like the Tristan Wirfs thing is a bit of an issue and they're looking to get the ball to Baker's hands quickly early on, I think a lot of that's going to be Egbuka. Where do you think he belongs? Is he S tier, A tier, B tier?
He's a certain B for me. Closer to C than A for me, but I'll throw him in B.
Wow.
We can split the difference there. Yeah, because look, if it's round 7, sure, I'm fine taking him as an A or an S. It's not round 7 anymore, Jacob. This is the most hyped player and the most buzzed about player in all the fantasy land. So again, if you're drafting with anyone in your leagues, and I'm sure most leagues now have people who at least listen to a podcast or at least read a few pieces of content, he's the most hyped guy. So I think his price tag is at, I've seen him going for more expensive than some of the players we have up here. Hunter, Pickens. I've seen him go above Pickens. So I just know the reality of draft season. And I know the reality is we're going to get to our draft. Somebody's be like, he said Egbuka was an S tier and A tier. And then Egbuka goes so early. I'm not as high on him. I know just throughout the whole season, I haven't been as high on him as you have.
Yeah. He went in round 6 of my FFT open draft.
Yes.
Just one
5
spot.
in mine.
Just one spot behind Rashid Rice, ahead of Travis Hunter, ahead of Ricky Pearsall,
Right.
Jaylen Waddle. We'll put him in B tier and say it's like a round 6 valuation. If it was round 7, probably A tier. Matthew Golden, round 8. I feel a little bit more comfortable with this. I think that's a fair valuation. Sometimes he'll go higher, but a lot of drafts he's not. I mean, we saw, I think it was on Yahoo, his ADP was outside of the top 120.
Yeah, crazy Yahoo ADP. Yep.
So where, if you're talking round 8 for Matthew Golden, where do you think that he belongs? He, again, on that cheat codes article or cheat codes beyond the box score video where we talk about horizontally breaking routes, I think that's the key to him here is this fit with LaFleur. I think C or B tier, something like that.
Yeah, just to wrap, there's also a lot of great Matthew Golden analysis on our Sleepers Week podcasts. We did 3 Sleepers episodes with industry experts. A lot of them pick Golden. So you can get that information there or on the Cheat Codes episode. It's a bet on LaFleur, it's a bet on the talent, and it's a bet on the fit in the system. I'm closer to C, I think, with him, but I'm okay putting him in B.
I think if you can get him in round 8, I think it's basically on par with the Travis Hunter and Egbuka bets. I think we feel more reliable about the projection for those guys, but the
That,
fit
yes.
the fit is so good. Man, when I watched Egbuka in college, it was like, this guy's phenomenal at getting in and out of his breaks
Yep.
and on the horizontal plane. He just needs somebody who can throw with anticipation. He didn't have that at all. Now he goes and plays with Jordan Love, who can make
You're
any
talking about
throw
Golden.
anywhere.
You said Egbuka, but you meant
Sorry,
Golden.
Golden,
That's
yes.
fine. Yep.
And like Love and LaFleur together, like I just really think he could be a huge piece for them. Theo Grimminger brought up Christian Watson today, and it's such a weird comparison because they're so different. But the way that Watson was used in terms of like he can be a big play threat, but he's also in the red zone. I think that's kind of what Golden is. I think Golden can beat people in and out of breaks and be a reliable weapon in the red zone with his quickness. I really think he is poised for a potentially big year, and a lot of people are just assuming he's going to be a bust, you know? And
I don't know if they're assuming he's going to be a bust. I think there's skepticism. We don't have to spend too much time. We spent a lot of time on him already. There's skepticism around his role. And I think that's personally fair, just given what we've seen from the Packers offense throughout the LaFleur tenure, and especially with Jordan Love. A lot of spread it around. Is the volume going to be necessarily there for the breakout is probably the biggest question on Golden.
Where are you putting Jordan Mason? We've got round 9 Jordan Mason.
Yeah, we both really like this value. Look, Mason, man, like I think of some of the backs who are being drafted ahead of Mason. And I know you probably go through this too when you go through your drafts and you're like, really? On a lot of these players, you're probably like even a player, it's crazy as it sounds, like even a player almost like a Breece Hall type. And I would take Breece Hall still over Mason. I'd be forced to, just based on the talent level. But I can see such a path to points for Mason that I don't always see with players like some of those backs like Breece Hall, because I know Mason, or at least I expect Mason to be their key red zone contributor. I expect Mason to have some game scripts that lean on him and not on Aaron Jones. And then thirdly, I just see two things happening for this Vikings offense. One, them taking a jump in the run game because they added necessary talent on the interior offensive line. Two, them focusing more on the run game, Jacob, because of what my expectation of JJ McCarthy. I'm not high on McCarthy as a passer in the NFL. I'm not high on him operating the same type of offense that Sam Darnold operated, even for them, based on their two skill sets as quarterbacks and their experience playing in the NFL and how much they've seen. So I think they'll lean on Mason in a lot of times in good game scripts with Brian Flores, a defensive coordinator who can maintain and dominate games and keep them in those good game scripts. So I'm going to put him all the way up at B.
B tier seems a little bit aggressive because I don't think there's like any receiving upside. I just worry about how he's going to get there when he doesn't have touchdowns. And if you're going to be able to, like, if you're starting him on weeks where both backs are healthy, that makes me really nervous. I think there's going to be a lot of those weeks where he has like 4 points.
If they don't score. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a bet on Kevin O'Connell, who pretty much typically is always top 10 in plays, pace, points, yards. It's more of a bet on the offensive environment, I guess. But I also love him as a player. So it's kind of I see what you're saying, though. This is typically a back I would avoid. It's typically a trap back because of what you said. I just guess I have a little bit more faith in the change in the offense, how he fits that, and him as a player.
I love Mason too. Yeah, I do. I was talking with Ryan. He's like, why are you so low on Jordan Addison? And I was like, I think they're just going to lean more into the run game. I think Addison's run really hot with the touchdowns. And he just brought up that, like, historically, like KOC, no matter who's been there, even with backup quarterbacks and stuff, passes so much in the red zone, produces so many of it, like a higher percentage of his touchdowns through the air. KOC has said, like, from the beginning of the offseason that he wants to run more.
Yes.
And so maybe that is what we see. But I think just because, Mason's not, it's not like we're getting him beyond round 10. I think C is as high as I can go with him.
What? That's fine, just because his ADP has shot up in recent weeks. And if he was still being drafted in that range he was 2 weeks ago, I guess it's more of a B. I'm fine moving him to C.
All right, so you've been getting nervous about Colston Loveland. We've got round 10, Colston Loveland. His ADP is not really shot up at all. You still can get him pretty late.
Yes.
Where do you think that round 10 Colston Loveland belongs? But without any analysis, I'll let you guys know. We've talked about him a ton. I think the best place to do this is just go to our very first video on the channel, 5 best buys, 6 minutes, 28 seconds. We start talking about Colston Loveland, Ben Johnson, all of the things that we're excited for there in the Detroit offense. And then, we talked about the per route primer as well towards the very end of that episode. But Dan, where do you think Colston Loveland belongs here?
I mean, if you look at raw ADP, and we went over it yesterday. He's going late. He's going even later, Jacob, when you actually open the draft apps. And the FFT Open, I'm in that league right now. Click your tight end tab, search it by rankings, dude. No matter whose rankings you use or consensus, whatever you use, Loveland is far down that board, dude. And like you said, he's at 0 buzz. Of all the players we've discussed today, pretty much everyone we've put on this list, besides Kelce, has shot up by ADP. And besides Waddle and Kelce and Warren, have shot up by ADP this year. I mean, shot up multiple rounds from 2 months ago or even from 2 weeks ago. But Loveland has not moved. He has not budged on his ADP. There's not been a lot of positive buzz like Warren has had. There hasn't been a lot of preseason greatness like Warren has had. And Warren has really shot up boards. But we don't care here. We believe in the talent. We believe in the tape we watched at Michigan and his ability to get in and out of breaks, his ability to run crossing routes like a big power slot wide receiver, his ability to rise above the frame and make catches. There's nothing about his game I don't like. He's even an underrated blocker. But what'd you say?
I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the question is the volume. So we're going to bet on talent here. I'm going to put him in tier A.
Let's go.
For value. Let's
go. Right next to Brock Bowers, right where he belongs. Yeah, I think people honestly just have been sleeping on it a little bit because he hasn't played in the preseason at all. Really, he's played like 4 or 5 snaps each game. I think everything we've heard out of Chicago has been really good. All the reporters that are talking about Ben Johnson and what he's liked from Colston Loveland, what we're seeing at camp. I think, yeah, by the end of the season, he's going to be putting up big points for you. Josh Downs. I just took Josh Downs in the FFT Open. I think it was at the end of round 9. We've got round 10 Josh Downs here. Not a foolproof pick here. We're obviously worried about the quarterback position, but I think one of the latest sources of upside that you can get at wide receiver, I thought he was going to push up the board. There was a pretty mad dash to get Josh Downs on every sleeper list in like June and July, it felt like. But lately it's been more quiet on the Josh Downs front. So where does he fall for you on this list at round 10?
Oh, Josh Downs is such a difficult decision for me. I drafted him in my first auction. I'm already thinking about releasing him. It's 10-team league because I had unlucky situation at quarterback and it's a super flex and I need a quarterback. But the reason I'm not as psyched on him, and it is weird, he has had reverse, like you said, he's had reverse buzz. He was a sleeper and he's less so, is because of Tyler Warren. To be honest, Jacob, that's a similar role. It's to buy into Josh Downs means I have to buy into both him and Warren producing, or I have to buy into Warren busting because there's not a big passing game pie here. If you have Daniel Jones offense, man, look at Daniel Jones's career, and people can complain all they want about the players around him, but this dude was topping out at 15 touchdown passes a year. He had 1 year where he threw for 24 his rookie season, and he is not the same player he was then. He's had multiple neck injuries, doesn't throw the ball the same way. He's had a torn ACL, other lower half injuries, doesn't run the same way. Maybe that's back, but I don't believe the throwing will be. So it's just, where's my upside here? I'm not scoring touchdowns with Josh Downs. I need a Wan'Dale Robinson role and a better player than Wan'Dale Robinson. I like that, Jacob. I think he's fine value at that price. I just don't see the upside of it. So for me, he'd be a C tier.
Yeah, I was even thinking D.
He can't be with some of those guys in D. Well, maybe we have Waddle down there. I'll put Downs in D because Waddle's in there.
I was happy to land him, but it was more so that I looked around the board and man, there was a big receiver run right before my pick. A lot of people got sniped. And I was like, all right, I'm at least I'm content taking Downs. I think that's where we're at. Is like if he's one of the 30 best values on the board at any ADP, that's still good. But yeah, I don't think I would push him ahead of any of these guys. All right, this is a weird one. Oh, by the way, if you want to hear us talk about Downs more, or hear Ryan in this instance talk about Downs while I go through just 8 straight tweets with different levels of hype from different people from around the fantasy industry, you can find that at 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 49 seconds of the sleepers, all caps, sleepers, undervalued breakouts the experts are targeting late for your Josh Downs montage, whatever you do with that.
Amazing player, just not as sold on the situation.
Darnell Mooney, we've got a weird one here. I'll point you to 1 hour and 48 minutes, 36 seconds of the fantasy football play caller tier list that we did with Lord Reeves. That was a really cool video. At nearly the 2 hour mark, 1 hour, 48 minutes, 36 seconds, we talked about Zach Robinson and the Atlanta Falcons, dealing with some offensive line injuries. Darnell Mooney dealing with some sort of injury of his own, a shoulder injury that we don't know exactly what the case may be for him this season, how much time he may miss. still going off the board in round 11 or so. People are
Sure.
you're still finding one in every draft, it seems like, that's willing to take a shot on him. I was very excited to take Mooney in like round 9 earlier this summer. He played extremely well last year. I think the fit with Penix is really a good one for the way that Mooney wins. And I think that this offense, I think it really is worth listening to that episode with Reeves and talking about Zach Robinson. I think the offense could produce a ton of plays. We just don't know if he's going to play. So if you don't have a league where you can stash him away or something, it feels like a waste. But there definitely is upside. I mean, he was producing similarly to Drake London to start the season. He really was before he got hurt.
Yep.
A super talented player. When you watch his film, like absolutely filthy route runner. But yeah, we just don't know how much he's going to play. So where are you comfortable? Where's the earliest you'd be like, okay, I'll take a shot on Mooney here?
Well, my pro case is a lot of what you brought up, and I'll just throw a few things in there. Love the pace of that offense and that offensive scheme and coordinator. Love the pace of that offense because I believe Michael Penix is better when he's in hurry up, no huddle. And love the verticality fit with Michael Penix's arm talent. All those good things. Bad things for me, though, Jacob, why I probably would have him be more comfortable taking him round 12 and probably put him as a D tier value to me is it's kind of what Scott Pianowski said. I've seen this a bunch, and it's a good point. Like, injuries are going to find us in fantasy, dude. I don't want to really draft these already injured players because I don't know the true extent of their injury. I'm not a doctor, and I don't know how it's going to impact them in the season. I also am getting a little skeptical on buying Falcons, despite all the good news about the system and the pace, because McGarry's hurt now. Their right tackle, Penix's blindside defender, his swing tackle backup is also injured. Will there be issues with the protection? Is Penix going to be as good as he was in that small sample size against really, really bad defenses? I'm not as sold on that either. So Falcons still have like a projection, Jacob, of like in the 20s points scored. And yet I feel like we're buying a lot of players high. London, Bijan, I should say, among others, or really just those two. I don't want to really get in on Mooney, I don't think, this year.
Totally fair. All right. So you said round 12, probably. We've got him in round 11.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Is like, if he's there in round 12 or 13, I would take him. Are you taking him ahead of Brandon Ayuk?
It's a good question. No, because it depends on your league settings. If I have a lot of IR spots, I'm probably taking Ayuk ahead of him.
All right. Round 10, Robert Kraft. Tucker Kraft, Robert Kraft. A bit of a slip there. Tucker Kraft.
All right.
I think Tucker Kraft is one of the best values on the board. I will put him in B tier. Not quite as good of a value as Colston Loveland, but anytime I don't get Loveland, I'm totally content to take Kraft. If you go to our 10 fantasy football breakouts video at 45 minutes, 59 seconds, we talk about Tucker Kraft. Are you fine with a B tier for Tucker, not Robert?
I'm also really high on Kraft. I mean, there's a lot of these late round tight ends we love. You can see it. It's why it's so difficult for me to click Bowers. But all the scenarios lead to a breakout. Let me ask you a quick question, Jacob. Let me put you on the spot. In my one super flex league I've drafted already, 10 team, I have Bowers in my tight end 1. You can only start one. You can start multiple tight ends. You can start tight ends in your flex spots. There's 2 flex spots. I have Bowers tight end 1. I have Loveland on the team and Kraft. I had Anthony Richardson as my QB3. That's benched. And there's Jones on the waiver wire. I'm going to have to add Jones. The question I have for you is, who am I dropping? Josh Downs or Tucker Kraft, with in mind that I already have Bowers as tight end 1 and I have Loveland behind him?
Kraft.
Okay. All right. That's just
pretty
a positional thing, I think. Because we're looking at values right now. We like Kraft better in round 10 than we like Downs in the round he's going in. But
right. Yeah. No, I love Kraft. I think he could be a huge breakout. But I also think it's possible the Downs comes out the gate and smashes, has like a big week 1 or 2.
Okay.
If Tyler Warren isn't fully acclimated to some big role or whatever. If Downs comes out and has 11 targets in week 1, and
True.
has 88 yards and a touchdown or whatever, the fantasy community, I'm going to be putting tweets where it's like, oh my gosh, over the past year, Josh Downs, more, fantasy points per outrun than Malik Neighbors. Can you believe it? Like, yeah, you're going to be able to take advantage of that. And you'll be like, I think you regret dropping him.
I think you're right about that. Generally speaking, with Downs, like the only reason he's not one of the A or S tiers is because of his situation. He's one of the best receivers that people don't know about on film and by the metrics.
All right, our next player is Jake Ferguson in round 12.
Fergie,
you've got, generally speaking,
like
a full round or 2 behind Tucker Kraft and Colston Loveland. Great offense that he's playing in. He number one in avoided tackles at tight end in 2024. Over the past 2 seasons, he only played 13 games. Over the past two seasons, number one in avoided tackles at the tight end position. Not Tucker Kraft, who you might expect. He's up there. It's freaking Ferguson.
Yep.
Where are
Damn
you
right.
putting him? Where are you putting him on your board
Yeah,
here?
maybe, Jacob, we got a little Badger bias here. Maybe not. Maybe I just knew this was a great talent coming into NFL, and I couldn't understand why NFL teams didn't see it that way too. He was held back by bad quarterback play, just like Nico Collins was at Michigan. This is what happens sometimes in the Big Ten. And he's proven to be, as you broke down, a phenomenal player. He's also in a phenomenal situation right here. Yes, Pickens is there. Yes, Lamb is there, but this team could be throwing an insane amount this year with their secondary in the shape it's in and with their run game in the shape it's in. If those two factors play the role, I think they will. We're looking at, in my mind, one of the best passing offenses in the NFL. It's another reason why I'm buying Dak. I'm buying Pickens. Lamb, of course. He's my wide receiver too. Add Ferguson to that list. This is my guy, Jacob. If I miss on Kraft, if I miss on Loveland, because my draft is very astute and they're taking these guys earlier than I want them to, I'm settling on Ferguson, and I'm pretty happy, man. Like I think he's a safer bet too than those two.
So I might have missed it because I was trying.
Oh
to
no,
keep
I didn't give it to you.
Okay.
It's not the greatest value in the world. Let's put C. C's fine.
I think he's exactly C.
Yeah.
In the chat, we've got somebody said, makes me question the utility of avoided tackles, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, if you look at tight end position, avoided tackle is not going to correlate very strongly to future tight end scoring. What you need at tight end is touchdowns and playing time. Ferguson, I think, will get a lot of playing time. I don't know if he'll get a lot of touchdowns. A lot of his avoided tackles just lead to like an extra 2 yards, which is 0.2 fantasy points. That's mostly just a fun stat for flavor because no one would guess that it was Jake Ferguson, even the biggest Badger fans.
Yes.
Round 10, CJ Stroud. I went back and listened to our QB tiers podcast a little bit, just the players we're going to talk about today.
Sure.
If you go to the 1 hour and 48-minute mark, that was a very long podcast.
He's so long. Longest
3-ish hours, I believe. Yeah. I believe Dan made it through that without a break, which is
no bathroom break. You had to go at some
impressive. Point. Yeah. 1 hour, 48 minutes and 4 seconds is when we start talking about CJ Stroud. What I noticed just briefly listening back on that was that you were very nervous about the offensive line for both Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. And so I am a bit surprised to see them pop up here for you now.
Yep.
Has anything changed, or where are you at on Stroud?
Yeah, I think I was at that stage of the offseason. And this, again, remember, that was quarterback tiers for like we're ranking them for real life, not fantasy, just to be clear about that. As far as it goes for fantasy, like I just look at the situation in Houston and I love it. And it's partly like my case for drafting Cowboys pass game options. I don't trust the run game at all without Joe Mixon. I don't know when Joe Mixon is coming back. And I think they're going to have to lean heavily on the pass game. And that'll be another one of these top 5, top 3 volume teams. And I'm a big volume chaser in fantasy. I believe the way to win fantasy is via talent, but mostly via volume. You can't always predict volume, but sometimes you can. In Stroud's case, I believe you can. I believe in the talent as well. He can throw the ball all over the field. He's just going to have such a better situation. Even if the offensive line is the same as last year or slightly improved, which I think it could be, the weapons are so much better, man. Lost Diggs early, mid-season Tank Dell goes down, or maybe a little bit later, but it's basically mid-season down for the fantasy playoffs. I believe in Jalen Noel as a talent a lot. I believe in Higgins. I believe in Kirk, to be quite frank, as somebody who can get open and be a safety valve for them. So the weapons are improved. The volume should be heavy. And CJ Stroud is still, to me, one of the 7 best throwers of the football in the NFL. It's all things that lead to me to being a great value. Because, again, he's quarterback 20. Like Jamie went over this earlier. He's quarterback 20 in his rankings and consensus rankings. He doesn't go off the board. So it's more of a super flex play for me for sure. But honestly, dude, like I'm okay just waiting at quarterback and getting 2 plays like him and Lawrence or something like that and being fine with my position.
Quick question. Do you want to be corrected if you are mispronouncing a name? Because I would like to. Okay. I believe it's Noel, right? I feel like
I said Noel earlier. This is the only reason I corrected it to Noel. I said Noel earlier on FFT. And then I should never be reading the comments, but I read the comments and someone was like, you're pronouncing it wrong. It's Noel. So you know what? Whoever did that in the comments today on the normal on the morning FFT show, shame on you. Okay. I'm going back to what I thought it was. Now I don't even know. Knoll.
Knoll.
Jalen Knoll. Yeah, there we
Yeah. Okay, so I want to run through QB rankings. I'm curious. To me, Stroud profiles pretty similarly to someone like Dak Prescott as like a best case scenario. So these are mine, and I'm totally open to moving things around because I feel like of all the positions, I've been horrible at ranking quarterback. I've got Dak at QB 12 and Stroud at QB 19. Jordan Love, I think, is maybe sort of similar, but we'll probably have to do it through efficiency rather than volume. I have him
Sure.
at QB 13. Where are you at in relation to some of these like not as mobile guys? Because with Stroud, we can't count on much rushing.
We're not counting on rushing for him. We're not counting on rushing for Dak or Jordan Love, really, all the players you mentioned. And that's it's why I'm targeting him a lot. I have him alongside a lot of those players. Maybe, I mean, look, I have him behind Dak and Love in my rankings, but not by that big of a jump. So I'm just waiting. It's the same thing with, like, I feel like Lawrence and Stroud are both value plays at quarterback because you're paying a lesser price than Dak and Love. And there's some similarities in even Goff goes a lot higher than these players. And that's, not a player I would be as in on buying. Look, it's risky. Both Stroud and Lawrence have bad offensive lines that could derail their seasons without a doubt, but they also have a lot working for them. In Lawrence's case, he has potentially the Liam Cohen boost that we saw for Baker Mayfield, in addition to drafting a player like Travis Hunter to that offense. Yes, there is concern, and he hasn't been a great quarterback in the NFL. In Lawrence's case, Stroud has been at times. But it's just a value play for me here, man. Like I okay waiting at quarterback and getting those guys, and I feel like with the AFC South schedule, they should be fine for me.
Yeah, part of the Liam Cohen potential boost, in addition to just like elevating the whole offense, we hope, is that we might see more rushing. Somebody in the chat brought up Baker Mayfield, I think, in relation to the guys we talked about who are more scoring their points as passers only. He ran way more than we had ever seen last year under Liam Cohen. And
Sure.
that's why that's the tiebreaker for me between Lawrence and Stroud. I think we could see more rushing. I've heard that Cohen wants to get him more involved that way. So do you have Lawrence or Stroud higher?
Let's take a quick look at my rankings, and I'll filibuster a quick second to see who's higher for me. It's Lawrence for sure. I don't have, look, I have Stroud ranked in a certain area behind players that go above him. He's not ranked that much higher ADP wise. I just feel like he's the guy I have pinpointed as just no one's drafting him. I can sit and wait at quarterback and still get him. And that goes for Lawrence too, honestly.
So where I have him QB 19 is about where you're at. Then it sounds like maybe a little bit higher. Maybe you have him above Caleb Williams or something like that.
I have him above Caleb.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think above Goff.
I don't think we can put him any higher than D tier. Then it sounds like
that's fine. Yeah, it's more. Look, you're never finding. I don't think you're ever really finding insane value at quarterback. Personally, maybe a little bit more in these one quarterback leagues, but I think you're looking for small wins, and I think he's more of a small win. So D is fine for me.
Okay, what I'm going to put on the screen here is Trevor Lawrence data because it really looks bad for Trevor Lawrence. This is a chart, fantasy points per game and fantasy points per dropback, which are the two most predictive stats that we have right now for future fantasy production at QB. This is through an initial 60 games, round one QBs only, dating back to 2000 with a minimum of 1,000 dropbacks. Trevor Lawrence's rate is lower than Baker Mayfield's, above Sam Darnold's. You see some of the successes that we've had recently are well above him. Another way to look at it here, I've got it just sorted by fantasy points per dropback of the 51 quarterbacks in this range. The names below Lawrence, it's not a good range to fall in. Like, is there anyone in this list that gives you any hope? Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco. Those are the best names. Dude, you compare 60 games of a career for Trevor Lawrence to the initial 60 games for Daniel Jones.
Oh, I can't believe you're going into this.
Daniel Jones is better in basically every single metric. It's so awful. I know. I hate it because I want Lawrence to be good.
Definitely not better in yards per attempt.
I don't know if that's right.
He might be. His yards per attempt is only over 7 once in his career, Jones.
He scored more fantasy points.
He runs.
Similar rushing, similar touchdown rate, 3.4% touchdown rate for Lawrence, 3.3% for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, it's been ugly.
Yeah, so maybe Liam can work some magic here. We got Trevor in round 12. For
It's
that
fair
reason,
to
a lot of
say
people are out on him.
a lot of people are out on Trevor, and it's fair to say, let's put him down at D. It's fair to say that the concern with Trevor is that he hasn't been a good NFL quarterback. I'm fine with that. I agree with what Mr. TD says. He doesn't he fails my untrained eye test. He fails and it's untrained as well. He fails my eye test as well so far. But I also know, and it's also fair to say, look, if you're making the case for Liam Cohen, you could just say, well, Baker Mayfield was already fixed before Liam Cohen got there. So let's not give Liam Cohen the credit for that. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield was never putting up 4,541 TDs before Liam Cohen got there. Yeah, he had a good season with Canales, but it wasn't at that level. And so with that said, can we get that same jump from Lawrence? He's been gifted what I deem to be the best route running, the best overall film receiver by far in this class in Travis Hunter. He has Brian Thomas, who we both believe at this point, Jacob, and I know you do too, is one of the elite receivers in the NFL. So you can't think of too many better 1-2 combos there. We like Brenton Strange. We like some of the talent at running back, Bhayshul Tuten. I like Tank Bigsby. There's a lot of weapons around him with this coordinator. The offensive line remains a concern, and he remains a concern, Lawrence. But you're not paying the price. You're not paying right now a price tag that would assume that he's already a great player. You're paying a price tag of everyone's given up on this guy. God bless. Get him around, get him around 13, 14, right? So I'm just willing to take a bet, one more bet on that profile, and mostly on the situation around him.
I'm totally fine calling him a value. I think he belongs on this list more than Stroud. I think there's a real chance that Travis Hunter and BTJ are a true problem for defenses to try to solve.
Right.
And if they can't, then Liam Cohen might put him to work. I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like. But
imagine if he also has Tuten on the field. Like that's three problems for an opposing defense where it might not matter as much who your quarterback is.
Yeah, but it might. That's the thing. It all comes down to
It
Trevor.
always does come back to the quarterback. He has to improve. There's no doubt about it. I did feel like some of the metrics when we went over it, when you charted every one of them, they were somewhat improved.
Drake Maye.
Well, here's the best value on the board at quarterback. Thank you. We finally got to it.
Round 10, Drake Maye. If you want to hear us talk about real life Drake Maye, you can go to the 1 hour, 4 minute, 28 second mark of the 2025 NFL QB Tiers ranked show. At the 22-40 minute mark of Fantasy Football Draft 2025, win your league using math and historical evidence to make the right pick. Ryan talks about the outline for what has worked, what has given us league winners at QB, and Drake Maye, why he is basically every fantasy analyst's favorite sleeper quarterback. Do you want to just push him into S? I think A is where I'm at with him.
Let's go A. Again, I feel like at quarterback, it's hard to get massive wins. The only way Drake Maye will be an S tier in this season, well, you put him at A. We can reorganize them at the end if we want to. The only way he'll be an S tier for me, Jacob, is if he does break into the elite tier. And that's where, at least what we have it right now, Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and I guess Joe Burrow in that tier as well. He can do it in a multitude of ways, so I think it's possible he gets there. I just don't think they're quite ready for the Patriots, both offensive line-wise, with the weapons too, honestly, and then finally just the feel for the team. Like a Joe Burrow type breakout into tier 1 was insane passing volume. The rest of those guys we mentioned was insane running volume, or just rushing touchdowns for Allen. But like I said, I do think Drake Maye is going to have at least 6 to 8 on the ground this year, which is really going to propel his fantasy value. I view him as more of another small win. Like I think he'll end up being like finish around 10, 11 at quarterback. And you're still getting good value there, but it's not quite S tier value.
Yeah. I mean, he was near that last year on a per dropback basis, and I think things improved substantially this year. So I think he could easily push up into like the QB 5 or 6 range. JJ McCarthy, round 11.
He's S tier. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
JJ McCarthy, round 11. If you don't get Drake Maye, this is typically who we're going to. I'm a little worried that there might not be as much volume, but I do think he could be just as good, if maybe even better, on a per dropback basis. Sam Darnold last year was, and he didn't even run. Sam Darnold was that guy on a per dropback basis. So JJ McCarthy, could sneakily be, better than Drake Maye if there's more passing and overall volume than we expect here in Minnesota. If JJ McCarthy runs more than we're expecting, there are a few paths to him being a really key breakout for fantasy. And he's very, very cheap. Where do you think he belongs?
You're more JJ guy than I am. I have T-Law ahead of him. I have Stroud ahead of him personally. I've noticed I'm very low on my JJ rankings. Love the upside case for him. I think he's going to run a lot more than people realize. He ran a lot at Michigan, and even from watching the preseason game, I saw a lot of those like, I don't really figure out. I'm not reading this out right. Let me just run, and he can pick up those yards. My concern with JJ is, one, are they changing the offense like we've talked about earlier with Jordan Mason and moving toward more run heavy? Two, does this guy have the chops to run this Kevin O'Connell offense? I understand everyone's done it that he's had. Sam Darnold's a more talented thrower of the football than JJ McCarthy in a multitude of ways. He's way more talented at layering the ball into the intermediate levels on those in-breakers that they love to run, those deep crossers. And he's got a way better deep arm than JJ. JJ missed a lot of deep throws at Michigan that were concerning, to say the least, especially when he threw to his left. Has he improved on all that throughout the 2 seasons of working as on an NFL roster? Maybe. He was injured for a lot of last year. He's had an up and down training camp. I'm just a little skeptical, dude, of the player. And I get it. Everyone's worked in O'Connell. Some of those guys, like, we laugh off Nick Mullins, but Nick Mullins is like a decent processor with a decent arm, dude, and can throw and can layer the football in a decent way. Like, there's a lot of assumptions made, I think, on McCarthy as a prospect that I'm just not willing to make just yet until I see it. This one, I feel like I can be so wrong on Jacob. Like, he can end up being such a better value than a Lawrence or a Stroud. Like, there's so much more runway for him to beat his ADP and become like a massive hit, an A-tier hit, versus those guys who don't really have that in their profile. So he's more of a Drake May fit in that regard. I just don't believe in the player. So for me, he'd be like a C or D.
Yeah, if you guys want to hear some JJ McCarthy metrics, we talked about him on 5 Best Buys, our first show, at the 1 hour, 20 minute, 16 second mark.
Yes, sir.
Rashid Shaheed. We've got 4 players left here. Rashid Shaheed at the 16-minute, 33-second mark of the Sleepers all caps video. This is another pick from Ryan Heath and Graham Barfield of the Fantasy Points data team. They're big Shaheed guys. I'm a huge fan of Shaheed as well. Since Rashid Shaheed has entered the NFL, among qualified receivers, he's number 1 in fantasy points per target. This guy's very good at football. He's done nothing but succeed with every opportunity that's come his way. Sounds like he's progressing pretty well in his return from surgery, but he's on the Saints. We don't know if there's going to be enough to go around for him to even be somebody you can use in fantasy. Are you ever going to feel any confidence starting Rashid Shaheed? I really don't know. I think he's, for me, in the Josh Downs range.
Yes.
I've got him round 12 is where I've got Shaheed here. What do you think?
I was just going to say, dude, this is like an arbitrage Josh Downs play. We really believe in the player. We really believe in the film. We really believe in the data. I hate the situation. At least with Downs, dude, I feel like, one, I have a little more confidence. This is so crazy to say, in their passing game. Like, I actually feel more confident Daniel Jones can keep a passing game somewhat on schedule versus like Shuck and Rattler to a major extent, honestly, for me. So one, that. Two, I believe more so in just the target volume with a quarterback like Jones. Like, we could be looking at some really, really bad series for the Saints. Like, I'm talking 3 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt over and over and over again, potentially. I'm very worried about that. So it's just not my cup of tea, Jacob.
That's why it goes in. That's why it goes around 12. Yeah. Go to that 16-minute, 33-second mark if you want to hear Graham talk about why he picks Rashid Shaheed in basically every draft. I think he did make a pretty good case for it.
For sure.
Jacory Croskey-Merritt, round 10 is where I've got him here. He went in round 8. Somebody thought they would get cute. They're drafted in the Gibbs division. I'll take Jacory Croskey-Merritt right before Jacob Gibbs' pick. I wasn't gonna take him. I already had Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, and RJ Harvey. I'm just bragging right now. But yeah, that's where we're seeing Bill push up the board too, is round 8. I've got him at round 10. His ADP is much further down the board than that. I think as we cool off a little bit here, he's probably going to settle into round 8, 9, 10. This was, if you want to listen to us talk about Jacory Croskey-Merritt, the best place to go is the 5-minute 27 mark of our 2025 NFL Fantasy Rookie Gyms show. That was the show that gave you Puka Nacua in 2023, Tyron Tracy in 2024. JCM was our flag plant call in 2025. Dan's first pick was Jaydon Blue, who we haven't seen get on the field yet, but I think does have a similar type of sneaky upside to all of a sudden be like the guy in the backfield. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh yeah, there's this rookie that's just more electric than any of the other guys that we have,
Yep.
and is on a good offense. So we've got him in round 13 because we haven't had the preseason hype yet. When you look at these two players and Bhayshul Tuten in round 12, how do you sort them out as values? Who do you think belongs where?
Ooh, that's a great question. So Bill, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, I guess we're calling Bill now. I think he wants to be called Bill. So we'll call him Bill Croskey-Merritt. I'm still a little bit, as much as, he's our flag plant. I love him. I love the talent. I love the idea that Brian Robinson's probably getting traded. That's obviously necessary for him to assume value. I'm still a little worried about Rodriguez there. Rodriguez looked good at times last year, and he played ahead of Croskey-Merritt in the preseason game. It's one concern I have. Eckler's obviously there as well. But I love the offensive environment, and I love anyone in a Cliff Kingsbury run scheme. So I think I'd still have him first for me, Jacob. And then I would have Tuten second, and I'd have Jaydon Blue last. The only reason I have Jaydon Blue last is, I've said it before, I'll say it again on the show, it's Scott Pianowski line. Don't chase injuries. Injuries will come to you. Jaydon Blue's dealing with a heel injury, really has missed a lot of time in camp. I'm just a little concerned about that and how that'll impact him. Because, when it comes to these players, Jacob, a lot of these guys and a lot of rosters and people who are listening to us right now trying to get tips before their draft weekend are playing in shallow leagues with small benches. Like, they may be forced to, from an injury standpoint, to release some of these players that they draft, these three specifically, early in the season. So if they're looking for someone who can make that impact early so they can, feel comfortable not having to release him, to me, it's least likely Blue just because of that heel injury.
All right. So you said Jacory Croskey-Merritt, even round 10, is your favorite value.
Yeah, I think he has the most upside.
We're going where then? B or something? Where would you put him?
It's probably still closer to a C for me.
Okay. I cannot put Tuten any lower than B. You know me. I want Tuten to be right here.
Yeah. Look, you've in hanging out with you as much as I have, talking so much ball with you, I felt like I need to go higher on Tuten. Obviously, the situation I don't love, but the talent is so phenomenally special. I would just love to see them trade Etienne or Bigsby, though, dude. And then I'd feel so much better about this from a redraft standpoint. I think B is okay if you're okay knocking him to B.
If you're gonna, get crazy on the Tuten train with me, you have to be prepared to be patient.
Yes.
It truly wouldn't surprise me if week 1 comes about and if they haven't traded Etienne, Tuten is inactive. And people will lose their mind if that happens.
That's right.
Fantasy receipts will try to dunk on me in week 1. But truly, there's a chance that they'll just have LeQuint Allen on the roster because he's a pass blocker. That's his whole thing. That's a 7th round rookie that they drafted. I think by the end of the year, Tuten's going to be very, very good. But it is going to potentially be another one of these that you can pick up. If people drop him, like a Cam Scadaboo or something like that.
Right.
So just be cognizant of where you're playing, how deep the benches are, who you're playing with. If you have a bench where you feel like you can stash him, I think this is a great spot to get him because I think by the end of the year, he might be producing similar to what we got from Bucky Irving last year. I don't think the offense will be as good, but that's the type of player we're talking about here in terms of upside.
Sure.
Is somebody who you can start at the end of the season. I think it's pretty rare to find anything like that beyond round 7, 8, 9. So
agreed.
Sensitive to where you're playing and what your bench sizes are like, but I'm comfortable with him in B.
And let's just take it. I just want to throw one quick point in from a 30,000 foot view, Jacob. We spent so much time these last 3-4 months breaking down how this was in very much ways a historically deep running back draft class, the rookies coming in. Last year, Bucky Irving was part of a not so deep draft class and had that kind of breakout. We're going to see some breakouts come from this round 3-4 range where Tuten was drafted. And there's plenty of guys that can be Jaydon Blue's in the mix for that, plenty of others. So I want to have some exposure to these late round backs in my draft. If I'm building my roster out, I'm leaving myself roster room to take at least 1 or 2 flyer chances on that class, knowing that I'm drafting into one of the best rookie classes we've ever seen from a depth standpoint. Players like Tuten could have easily gone in round 2 in other drafts.
I really do think he would have been round 2 last year. I mean, he's very similar to how he runs to Marshawn Lloyd.
I was going to say he's a much better version of Marshawn. Marshawn Lloyd.
Every time this conversation comes up, we just beat up on Marshawn Lloyd.
We have to.
I like Marshawn Lloyd.
I never liked Marshawn Lloyd at all. I thought Woody Marks was better on tape.
Dang, that's crazy.
I didn't get that pick at all, and he's been injured. Unfortunately, he's been injured. That's unfortunate for him. But yeah. Point being, it's a great running back class. Let's try to get some late round darts there thrown there. All right, Jacob, we've got our board set up.
Under an hour and a half. I'm proud of us because somebody saw this when we shared it on the FFT earlier. I'm like, there's like 30 players, and somebody's like, oh boy, this is gonna be a 4-hour Beyond the Box score.
We had to move quickly. The good news is we did a lot of analysis on most of these players over the last month. So check out our page, a lot of evergreen content. And if you're listening now, just check out what Jacob said. He time-stamped all those discussions. So obviously, enjoy this. We enjoyed this one. I had a great time talking value with you. I just love talking ball with you,
but
Jacob.
yeah, we definitely need to recap what we've
Okay,
got here.
let's recap the tiers
for the listeners who can't see the screen. So in the S tier, we have just 2 players. That's round 6, George Pickens, round 6, T-Mac. Either of those guys might push up. I took George Pickens at the 4-5 turn today. T-Mac is going in round 4 in some drafts. But to us, those are the best values on the board. Do you want to push anyone else up, or are you fine with those 2 sharing S tier all by themselves?
I think I'm leaning toward
think
that.
This is good.
Yeah. The only one I would consider is Loveland, but let's leave and Maye, but let's leave them in A.
Yeah. All right. S tier, Pickens and T-Mac. A, we've got CMC as not 101, a crazy value to us. Nico Collins at the 1-2 turn is crazy. Brock Bowers at the 2-3 turn is crazy. And then we finish it off, of course, with Colston Loveland and Drake Maye as round 10 or beyond. Crazy stuff there. Those are all A tier values. B tier, Emeka Egbuka, round 7, probably going to end up being more like around 6 valuation. We said if he was 7, it would probably be like an S tier value. In some leagues, you might be able to get him there. Listen to the ADP show we did yesterday. Yahoo, some of these leagues, you might be able to get him much later. But we've got him as more of like a round 6 valuation. Sometimes he's going even earlier than that, but we've got him as the best player in our B tier. Do you want to reorder any of these, Dan? Just shout it out as we go along. If so, Chase Brown is next, round 2. Chase Brown, we think in most prior years is probably like a late round 1 running back. I mean, shout out like the Kenyon Drake days, right? Like this is basically the same kind of bet on a better offense, but you can get him towards the back end of round 2. Bucky Irving, same thing. The guy was so freaking good down the stretch. At the end of the season, the Bucs just gave everything to him. He's playing like 70% of the snaps, getting all the touches, and he's available in rounds.
One quick bone to pick that I got to throw in there.
Let's hear it.
I know I've mentioned this before. I officially want us on this show, Beyond the Box Score, to retire the T-Mac nickname for Tet McMillian. A, he's not being called that. No one's calling him that. B, it's too confusing. There's Tracy McGrady. There's Terry McLaurin. There's too many T-Macs. So I want us to go to either Teteroa, spell it out, which is hard for me to do, or just Tet McMillian, one of the 2, or just McMillian. But
he said he doesn't want to be called Ted.
I know it's confusing because he doesn't want to be called Tet. I just think McMillian at this point. But then there's Jaylen McMillian, maybe just Teteroa.
Yeah. If you,
I'm out on the T-Mac name.
If you can find a place where he says that he's out on T-Mac, then sure. I'm definitely not calling
too many other T-Macs. That's the problem. It's not. People keep in the chat saying T-Mac. Who we got to go. We got to get out of T-Mac. I'd rather do Tet than T-Mac.
I see. Yeah, we have a single comment of who's T-Mac. Okay, Teteroa, McMillian, S tier, B tier, Chase Brown and Emeka Egbuka with Bucky Irving, Travis Hunter, round 6, round 5. Sure. Travis Hunter, we think is one of the best values on the board. Followed by Tucker Kraft, round 10, JJ McCarthy, round 11, Bhayshul Tuten, round 12. Couldn't help myself. C tier, Matthew Golden, round 8. RJ Harvey, round 5. Some of our favorites here. Tony Pollard, rounds 5, 6. Rashid Rice, round 6. You know me, I would have liked to push him up to S tier.
Yeah.
But we compromised here. This is a collaborative effort. Xavier Worthy, round 5, also in.
Put Rashid up to B. Put Rashid up to B. Okay, throw him up to B. He deserves to be in B.
No, I really love this beautiful aesthetic we have with the stairwell down.
Okay,
that
is
looks
true.
Good.
That is nice to see.
Jordan Mason, round 9 in C tier, along with Jake Ferguson, round 12, and Bill Croskey-Merritt, round 10. D tier, still good values. Happy to land him in these spots. Josh Downs, round 10. Rashid Shaheed, round 12. Jaylen Waddle, round 6. Jaydon Blue, round 13. Jalen Warren, round 7, which seems high, but he really is pushing up. Maybe if you get him in round 8, I don't really want to take him around 7 unless I have to. Darnell Mooney, round 11. Dan and I both said we'd prefer to get him in round 12 or later. Trevor Lawrence.
You can, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Trevor Lawrence, round 12. CJ Stroud, round 10. You can sometimes get them later, just depending on how the QB position is falling. And then Travis Kelce, here he is, round 5, 6. Travis Kelce to round things out.
I will live and die on this Travis Kelce hill. He's going to fall into 8 to 10 touchdowns again. That offense is going to rebound. I'm going to die on that hill. And if he comes out looking as slow as he did last year, I will immediately, Jacob, admit defeat on that take. Immediately will I do it. By the way, I like what Bean said in the comments. How about T. Millie for Tetero McMillian? I like it. T. Millie.
Works for me.
All right. This was Beyond the Box Score. This was our ADP Value Tiers. Hopefully you enjoyed this. As we mentioned throughout the show, there's a lot of evergreen content on our channel. Go back and listen. We've pinpointed some timestamps for you to hear some discussions. A lot of player takes on takes. But if you want to help us grow this show, please hit the like button right now. Hover your hand over that mouse. Right on over. Here's my hand. I'm getting ready to do it myself. Bink, like. See how easy that was? It was easy for me. It'll be easy for you. I am not a smart man, as Forrest Gump once said. Please also subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go leave a rating and review on iTunes. Right now, go leave a rating and review on Spotify and iTunes. I just checked before the show, Jacob. Still under 200. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Go over there.
The head over the mouse thing got me to laugh so hard that my StreamYard was like, "Your mic is muted, by the way." Like I thought I was trying
to say something. No,
it reminded me of the guy trying to get the burger on I Think You Should Leave. Like,
oh yeah. Just kidding.
I'm joking.
No, I'm joking. All right, no more. I think you should still leave. References on the show.
Stop throwing still into it.
Oh, dude. I always say still. I think you should leave. Why do I always say still? I think you should still leave. I think you should leave it. And all right, we've gone off the rails officially here. So please subscribe, do all things to help us. We'll be back with you next week. Have a great rest of your weekend. Good luck in your drafts and go BTB, Beyond the Box Score.